Hi, everyone, and welcome to Focus and Calm for Kids Without Drugs. And today, let's look at some different possibilities for our amazing kids and adults with ADHD, ADD, ASD, autism, OCD, and dyslexia. They have beautiful gifts and talents, and we want them to be who they really are and to be able to do what they can really do. And let's look at some other possibilities. First of all, though, my question is for people when I talk to them, what is it like for you? What is it like for parents? And the things that I hear are some things are pretty severe. Little kids who are, maybe 9, 10 years old are already giving up on life. A lot of kids don't want to take medications because they don't feel like themselves. And some parents are getting pressure from teachers and pressure from the administration to put their children on medication so that it's easier to control their behavior in the classroom. I'm a teacher with the TDSB, and I'm also a transformation coach. So I see this from a variety of angles, and I've been in the classroom. I've had ADHD kids in my classroom. I understand where the teachers are coming from, but we are never allowed to pressure parents into going on medications. That is not something that we are supposed to do. So I'm just giving you that information right now. A lot of kids, just for instance with ADHD, are being targeted for misbehavior without them having the proper accommodations that they need to have in the school. And often it's not recognized by the board, whatever school board it is, that this is a neurological thing that's going on with these kids. It's seen as a behavioral thing, and that's a real problem. And we'll talk more about that a bit later. What else I hear, parents are overloaded. It's really, really challenging to have a child with learning challenges or exceptionalities, and the load is 24/7. And as a teacher, I had kids with all sorts of challenges in my classrooms at the same time. I do not understand how parents do it. You have my admiration. You're strong, and you're courageous, and you're amazing. And I encourage you to keep going. These kids are beautiful, and there must be a way, and there is a way. There are lots of ways for them to be able to function. But maybe the problem is that we're not giving them the right supports and the right systems, or maybe less systems, in which to function well. I hear from parents, and I've seen emotional meltdowns and frustrations with the kids. Kids with ASD will melt down when we are not communicating with them. And they communicate in a different way, and we'll talk about that in a bit. There are also problems with routines and forgetfulness and losing things and being disorganized. These things are really taxing on the adults in these kids' lives. And it's challenging to not only maintain a routine that they can feel comfortable within, but also to provide transitions from one thing to another. And that seems to be really important for all these kids because it gives them a sense of agency and a feeling of control over their own lives. Another problem I hear a lot is social problems, and I've seen this at school. Kids on the spectrum have great difficulty reading social cues. They have to learn these things. They don't learn them by osmosis. So it becomes very challenging. Difficult to make friends, difficult to keep friends. And this is really tears the heart out of a parent, doesn't it? When you see these kids being rejected or being treated badly because they don't have the social skills and they don't seem to learn them by osmosis. They need help with that. Another frustration I hear is lack of funding from the government or from any source for support programs like after school or before school support programs. Many parents feel strapped and can't do what they would really like to do for their kids because they don't have the money. Some other things that I hear are to do with food. Picky eaters don't know what to do for them with food because they hardly eat anything, and it's hard to get them to eat healthy. So we'll talk about that a bit later, and that has quite a bit to do with their brain chemistry. And I cover that in other workshops, and we'll talk about those kinds of things later. So there are a lot of frustrations for parents, and you probably have your own list. Maybe some of these are similar for you, but you're not alone. And I know that you feel like you're maybe fighting the system, or you don't feel like you have the support that you need, but let's change all that. And we can't change it on our own. We need to be together. So that's the thing that we start with, is what is it like for you? Oopsies, this went in the wrong place. So why are we looking beyond what is currently available? There are some things that help. They seem to be little things here and there. They help a bit, they help a lot, but why don't we all know about them? And I think we need to look at the paradigms that we're living under to answer that question, and I'm not going to go into that here, although I'm happy to talk to you about it privately. My question is, when I started reading, this is about ADHD, when I started reading about the effects of the medications and what they are and how they work and what they're similar to, it shocked me and it appalled me. And that's what fueled my interest in finding some other ways that are holistic and healthy and that actually create real change and help allow kids to be truly who they are and truly happy and truly confident and truly successful, to be who they are and to do what they're good at and to do what they love to do. It's not about covering up symptoms. It's not about manipulating and controlling their behavior. I'm not interested in those things. I'm interested in them being able to step into who they really are, because we need them. And that's my why, is that we need them on this planet. They are what we need for the future of the human race, for the future of the planet. So I'm very interested in working with these kids and helping them to be all that they can be. So in the USA, I'm not sure, well, the numbers in Canada are similar to the USA. So 1 in 66 children are diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum. In USA, in Canada, 1 in 68 in the States, it's variable. That's too high. That's way too high, and it should be causing us to ask some really hard questions about why that might be. And in Canada, reported diagnosed ADHD cases or people are 6% of kids between, 4 and 16. I think that's very low. I think the incidence is much higher. But as we'll talk about, there can be other things that are going on that can mimic or exacerbate ADHD. OCD, dyslexia, those are different in their way, but they also have gifts and they can also be approached in a different way. So we're looking at what's different, what's beyond what's currently available, because maybe we don't want to give our kids medications that are very similar to amphetamines. There's like a very slight difference between some ADHD medications and amphetamines. They're basically stimulants. And maybe we would like to, maybe what we're doing right now isn't addressing deeper issues, and we know that. It's just masking things or getting by. And maybe we don't want to be controlling our kids' behavior or manipulating them or using outside things to make them do what we want them to do, or so that they'll fit into the system, but maybe we want to empower them to be who they really are and do what they're here to do. So those might be some whys for you, and they're certainly whys for me. So let's start with some of the essentials that I see to get real results. And why I say this is because we can do a little bit here or a little bit there, but there's a need to put it all together. And we now have new technology available that we can do things at a deeper level. And that's very cool. So let's take a look. So the first thing is to find out what's really going on in the body, in the brain. And this is important because there are a lot of conditions that can mimic these conditions, ADHD, autism, etc., OCD, dyslexia, and or make the symptoms worse. And some of these conditions coexist. So there's 3 possible things, and we want to know what they are. And then we can take care of them in a different way. What we can find out, so what I do is an intuitive body-brain health analysis. So it's easy for me to kind of scan the energy of people and of their bodies and see what's going on. That's just something that comes easily for me. And I've developed a checklist to check out all the possible things that could be a problem physically, in terms of we can check food sensitivities, any toxicities and allergies. We can check the functioning of all the organs, of all the glands. The endocrine system is hugely implicated in all of these things. We can check the neurochemical levels. And this is something that you really wouldn't be able to find a medical test for. And what I do is measure it as a percentage of that body's optimum. So it's always very personalized to that body. So no matter how unusual your body is, you can find out where you're functioning over or under. We can check for pathogens, any kind of virus and molds and parasites. Parasitic overgrowth is huge. And we can check for food sensitivities, yes, and nutrient levels. I do check all the 91 essential nutrients and see if there's enough of them. We can check which diets might be recommended, if any. And it's very comprehensive. It's easy, and it's painless, it's non-invasive, and it's comprehensive. So that's what we can find out. And this is how we find it out. And I like to teach people this too. It's fast and easy for me to do it initially, but I'm very happy to show people how to do it. It's not hard. And then you can kind of continue to monitor yourself and your child. What do we do with this? There are lots of things that we do with this. It helps me to know what kinds of things might be required that I do. And also, if there are some conditions that are mimicking or exacerbating ADHD, then there would be some other holistic practitioner that might deal with that in a way that I don't, certainly. If a person has a spinal misalignment that is causing problems and throwing everything out of whack, then why would you give them drugs for that, right? You would go to a chiro and get that corrected, just as an example. It can help you make food choices, foods to avoid, foods to add, nutrients to add. So there are a lot of implications. This is hugely useful information for you, for me, and for whoever you decide to go to help sort out some of these issues that are underlying what's going on. We want to rule out everything physical first. And we want to also do, if possible, in a holistic way that is sustainable and healthy and organic for the body and for our planet. And the last question, do I need to be there in person for this? No, I can do it anywhere, online, on the phone, across the world. It doesn't matter. So this is possible, and this is something that is very quick and very easy for me, and therefore for you. So please consider this as a possibility, just as a starting point to know what you want to do and what you want to choose after that. So the second essential that I see is to detox the body. So once we know what the toxins are, what's going on, then we can start to do some detoxes. There are different ways to do that. And one of the, I used to look at all these herbal detoxes and the diets, and I'm like, oh, I could do it for a short time, but it's so much work. And with kids, that's very difficult. So there are a few, there's ionic foot bath detox. I offer that. And there are sound balancing that does detox. And I want to offer that in the future. And I can make a referral for that in the present. It's pretty expensive machinery, but it's very cool. So the major players are heavy metals. And why this becomes significant is that I just learned the other day that what Wi-Fi does is weaken the blood-brain barrier so that all these heavy metals and things can go directly to the brain. Toxins can go directly to the brain. Wow. No wonder we're having such problems. In any case, some studies were done with autopsies on people that had been diagnosed with autism, and they found that the levels of aluminum in their brain were as high as people who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, autopsy studies on Alzheimer's. That's alarming. So that's one reason we want to get the heavy metals out of the body. They disrupt everything. They disrupt the endocrine system. They disrupt neurological functioning. And they leave yourself open to a lot of other problems because they're metals. And we'll talk about that privately. Toxins, we have a lot. We are inundated with toxins in our world, in the environment, in our air, in our water, in our food. This disrupts the endocrine system hugely, and they're cumulative. So if we can start cleaning the toxins out of the body, this is going to create more ease and allow the body to be more balanced and allow the brain to be more balanced. Parasitic overgrowths, this has been suppressed, but parasites are at the root of many, many diseases. It's a very long, complicated chain often, but I have been shocked when I have learned how many parasitic colonies and parasites of various kinds I have in my own body in North America. So it's not just something that we get from other countries. Okay, so parasites rob us of minerals, and they disrupt all manner of systems, and they throw things way out of whack. And when you think of parasites in the digestive system, think of all the issues that your kids have with food and digestion, and you've heard of the connection between the gut and ASD and ADHD. Okay, parasites can be at the root of that. So this is really, really important to detox all of these things. And that's why it's so important. All right. So then once you know what you're dealing with, if you know that there's some other condition that's in the way, take care of it. And we can find out, is it mimicking? I communicate with all sorts of things, and I communicate with bodies. So I can just ask the body, is it mimicking the condition or the label? Or is it making it worse? Is it exacerbating the symptoms? Or is it coexisting? They call that comorbidity in the health world. So some things that can mimic or exacerbate ADHD. This is a really interesting list. Just let me show you. And I read all over the net and found all of the possible things and put them all in one place. So some of these things include light deficiency, any trauma, big trauma, or small t, everyday traumas. And our kids, if they're getting in trouble at school, they've got traumas every day. If they've got social problems, they've got traumas every day. If they're melting down, if there's fights, or if there's problems at home, there's traumas every day. So just we call the small t's emotional stresses. Yeast-related complex, it's very insidious, and we all have a lot of it. Yep. Blood sugar imbalances, and we're talking about things that can mimic or exacerbate ADHD symptoms, or symptoms that we think are ADHD. Thyroid imbalances, dehydration, physical allergies, pH imbalance, pathogens, parasitic or fungal, bacterial, viral, or mold pathogens, immune deficiency, sensory integration disorder, and there are other ways of dealing with that, spinal misalignment, and all of those things we can usually deal with in holistic ways. Some of the conditions that can be confused with symptoms of autism and can also co-occur with autism include developmental disorders, especially developmental language disorders. People might think that their child has autism if they're late speaking or late communicating. General intellectual disability. This may not make you feel very happy if you find out that that is the case. Childhood schizophrenia, selective mutism, which means they're choosing not to speak for some reason. OCD, reactive attachment disorder, if there's been severe neglect in their early years. Avoidant personality disorder, which is like social anxiety. Vision problems, hearing problems, sensory processing disorder, and many others. And if you have a diagnosis of autism or being on the autism spectrum disorder, your doctor should have checked all of these out. If they did a complete, thorough check, And that should be done before any diagnosis is made, because this is a really serious diagnosis in that it has a lot of implications for the kind of treatment and funding and accommodations your child gets. So I'm hoping that those things have been checked out, but you might find that some of them have been overlooked, and then you can deal with that in a different way. OCD, severe anxiety, there can be other things that are behind that. And dyslexia is a different way of viewing the world, but there can be other things that mimic that too. Vision problems can actually have an effect and affect dyslexia. And we'll talk about that. If that is what's going on for you, talk to me, because I've worked with kids in the school system with dyslexia. Most of them have some degree. And how I had to learn all of this on my own. We weren't taught anything about it because basically it's not acknowledged in our school system here, in our board. But what I learned and then was later validated was like, oh, hey, was when we did the Flint-Cooter reading literacy diagnostics, if they had a listening comprehension that was 2 grade levels or greater or more, greater than their reading comprehension, that was a red flag to me that we were dealing with an LD, so dealing with dyslexia of some kind. And I do workshops where we talk about these things in more detail, but please contact me personally at linda@lindalonseth.ca and if you want to talk about this, because I have a lot of resources that might be useful for you. So take care of these conditions, and we usually take care of them maybe in different ways. Always my ideal is, how can we do this holistically? How can we do it thoroughly? And how can we create lasting change and kind of set these kids free so that they can be who they really are and shine? Okay, calm and balance the brain. Okay, that's the next thing that I think is truly essential if you're going to create lasting change. There are a lot of imbalances for all of these kids and adults with ADHD, ADD, autism on the spectrum, OCD, and dyslexia. Their neurochemicals are imbalanced. The brain activity is imbalanced, overactive in some places, underactive in others. The hemispherical activity is imbalanced. There might be more activity in one hemisphere than the other, and the communication might be imbalanced. They're not communicating between hemispheres. I measure all of that stuff holistically or intuitively when I do the analysis so that we can see what's going on in the brain enough to start doing something about it. I'm not a neuroscientist, but it's possible to tap into some of these things and get a bit of a snapshot, and then we have a bit of an idea. We can deal with it appropriately. So what can we do if there's imbalances in the neurochemistry? I like what is fast and powerful and easy. And that's always like, can we do this faster? Can we do it with more power? Can we do it with more ease? So the things that I recommend are easy, and they're easy for kids too. So one of the things I just discovered is wearable neurotechnology. And there are a lot of, the studies are in process right now, but there are a lot of anecdotal reports of this wearable neurotechnology. It's been 6 years in developing with lots of doctors on the panels, studies for other things like diabetic neuropathy, sports performance, foot pain, and there are noticeable results. So what happens is this neurotechnology, signals get sent. They have socks so far, but they're coming out with patches, and they're also coming out with kid-sized socks. So it stimulates, this 3D pattern stimulates neuroreceptors on the bottom of your foot, on the ball of your foot, and that's the peripheral nervous system, and it goes up to your brain and balances the brain stem, brings it into homeostasis. Your brain stem affects your entire nervous system. So it takes 7 seconds to bring your brain stem into balance. So a lot of people have reported big changes for their kids with ADHD and on the spectrum. A lot more calm, focus, things are easier at school, they can focus on the work, the teachers are happier with them. So this is definitely worth a try. They're not expensive, they're like $30, $35 for the socks. Definitely worth a try. They're available, yes, they're available online, and please contact me or you can buy them directly online. So it's Vox Life. I'll tell you right now, because I have a short attention span. I have this ADHD brain. Vox Life, voxxlife.com/my name, Linda Lonseth, LINDALONSETH. You can order them right online. And then I can contact you and give you some tips on how to use them if you want to give that a try. Something else that I do is work with light. And when we talk about the spectrum, like spectrum just really means a range of frequencies. It really does. Like the rainbow is a spectrum, right? So the spectrum includes everything because everything vibrates. So goes from the really low sound frequencies that we can't hear. The Earth's vibration is 7.83 hertz, and we can't hear that. And that's the vibration of our brain at rest, too. Interesting. We're in tune with the Earth. And then it goes up to sounds that we can hear. My voice, these sounds are in the hundreds, roughly, these vowel sounds. And then we go up to sounds that we can't hear, that dogs and other animals can hear. And then we go up higher, and then we get into the light color frequencies. The colors that we see, that's on the same spectrum of vibrating light. And then we go higher to X-rays, gamma rays, and those ones, those rays that we can't see. And then we go way, 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 way up to cosmic light rays. And where I work, the stuff that I do with work is about 10 to the 50. That's an exponent, 10 to the 50 hertz. So we're talking cosmic light rays. So this is extremely powerful, and you might call it divine, you might call it cosmic, whatever you like. But with this, we can balance the neurochemistry. So that's a really high frequency that I typically use when I'm working. There are also other body work with energy that are they're lower frequencies, and they're more specific energies. And I do those too. And I can teach people in workshops, I teach people how to do them so that you can do them on each other. You can do them with your kids, and they can do them with you. This is one way to get your kids to nurture you, and one way to nurture them, and they love it. So this neurobalancing body work is really super powerful, and it's not widely known because it's out of the box, shall we say. There is sound balancing technology, and that will be it is available. It's kind of expensive at the moment. What I'd love is, let's have some of this humanitarian funding come through, and then there can be lots of grants so that people can have it in their very own home. That's my dream. So that you can just sit there. You set your, ask me about it. It's really, really cool. Voice diagnosis analysis. You speak into it, shows you everything that's going on in your body, except the stuff that I do actually can show you more. And then it's easy, push buttons, and then you relax, and the frequencies, you get the frequencies that your body requires to detox, to rebalance, and all of that. So that will be available soon. It is available at this point. It's possible to do sessions, so ask me about that. So calm and balance the brain. So that's really essential. Okay, the next one is to dissolve past emotional stresses. And this can be big T traumas like events or specific incidents that happened, and it can be little T traumas like we talked about. And these all create things that are significant, conflict shocks. Like, what would a conflict shock be? It's something that happened that you couldn't resolve, and you didn't know what to do. You might have been isolated, didn't know where to turn, and it creates a ball of stuck energy. It literally creates a ball of stuck energy in various places in your body, in your brain, in your heart, energy in your heart itself, in your guts, in the water system of your body, and in your spine. This is meta health, advanced clearing energetics, and this is something that I've learned and I also can do. So these show up on CT scans because CT scans actually take images that are a slice of your brain. Let me get the right angle here. So they take slices. If you take slices like this, they show up as circles, little white circles in the brain. So that's how those stuck energy patterns show up. Doctors have seen them for years and didn't know what they were. Well, that's what they are. So with the energy work that we do, we can actually dissolve these. And that's what I do, and that's what I teach. So people can learn how to do that for themselves. So it's important to dissolve these past emotional stresses because they throw the body out of balance and they throw the systems out of balance. They can throw your glands out of balance. They can cause disease. Emotional stress is at the root of most diseases. So when you do something with that, you can create a lot of different possibilities. Another essential that I believe is essential, a holistic essential, is to create a supportive and, I say, clean environment. And kids are sensitive physically, they're sensitive energetically, and they're sensitive emotionally, they're sensitive spiritually. They're sensitive to their physical environment more so, and you know this for yourself, right? More so than maybe you are or than most of us are. And so toxins really bother them. And when you find out what they're sensitive to, then you can start to modify your environment to take that out of there. It can seem overwhelming to modify your environment with everything. So it's best to do the intuitive body brain health analysis to find out what is bothering them and then deal with that. Start there. And there are people that have done this sort of thing a lot. They know what to do, and I would send you to them to make differences. One simple thing that I do now is I wash my clothes with vinegar. I put a little bit of soap in because I like the smell, but you can wash your clothes with only vinegar, and the amounts, I don't know. For me, I do it intuitively. I just go glug, 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 glug until it's like that's enough. So that's one thing. A lot of people use essential oils for cleaning in various ways. They use them for various ways in their houses. And we have, of course, now a lot of cleaners available even in the superstores, in the supermarkets, that are not going to trigger kids' sensitivities. Emotional environment. This is more challenging. Kids are so sensitive emotionally. They're sensitive to your emotions. And they're sensitive to the emotions between the parents. And kids always feel like they should be able to heal and fix things emotionally. You know how they try to comfort you sometimes. And it's disturbing to them. When there's a disturbance in the force, they're disturbed. And it throws them out of balance. So another thing they detest is being controlled. You know that, right? Being controlled and manipulated. And so we can give them more choices. And there are practical tools to help give them more agency. But there are also different ways of talking to kids. And some of us didn't grow up with this, right? We didn't grow up with using the language of encouragement. And that's something that you can do starting right now, is figure out what is that? What is the language of encouragement? Not the language of punishment or blame or, it's your fault or what did you do now? It's like, this is the way it is right now and what can we do? Okay. And the language that will help them to feel safe, help them to feel loved, and to help them feel powerful. So when we take care as adults of our own emotions and when we take care of our adult relationships, kids can rest. And that makes a huge difference to their bodies and their emotional systems. The next essential I'm starting to hand things over to you now, notice. These are things that you do. Look after the basics. And you're going to look at these and say, basic. No, it's not basic. These are some of the toughest things there are. I know. Getting kids to eat healthy food, getting kids to eat at all. Some of them are such picky eaters, especially if they're on meds, especially if they're not feeling well. Yes. So when you find out what foods they're sensitive to, you can avoid them. And one way, I'm just going to give you a couple things you might do right now, is just a couple tips. Get them involved in making food. Get them involved. Because when they are involved in creating it, they feel agency, they feel responsible, and they're more likely to eat it. Get them involved in buying healthy food. So if we could involve them in the process of buying food that's healthy, educate them, and get them involved in making it, they're more likely to be involved in eating it. Another possibility is to keep healthy snacks always available. I know you're busy. And this might seem impossible, but just to have cut up vegetables and a dip right at their level in the fridge that they can see right away with bright colors, that might be one thing that we can do that helps them to get on the track of healthy eating. And they're going to need some fats. That's why I'm suggesting dip. One really easy dip, and you might want to check the ingredients if they're sensitive, but one easy thing that I do not totally healthy maybe, is to mix mayonnaise with sriracha sauce, that rooster sauce. And it tastes like chipotle. It's great. It's a great dip. Very quick. Sleep. Oh, yes. Lots of things can affect sleep, right? Their meds can affect sleep. Just their condition can affect sleep if they're anxious and worried all the time. Screen time can affect sleep. I talked to a mother the other day, yesterday, in fact, and we were talking about the problem of her child being on her iPad at night. And I said, yeah, things kind of changed around my brother's house when they just unplugged the Wi-Fi at night and took it with them and locked it away. She said, oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, try it, right? If all they have on their phone or on their iPad is Wi-Fi, which would be wise if you're not giving them access to data online, then you can unplug it when you go to bed and they don't have access to it, or unplug it when they go to bed. So that's one way to stop that. And screen time 2 hours before bed, we've heard of this. It's hard. I know kids get addicted, and that's part of the brain chemistry that they do, that we all do. But controlling screen time might help a little bit. Physical activity. This is essential, absolutely essential, especially for kids with ADHD. They need to be able to burn off that activity. It helps balance their neurochemistry. It really does. So please arrange it, and that might be community. Right? You might have to get them involved in something in the community that they can do after school. And time in nature, physical activity in nature is the absolute best. Studies have shown that kids perform better on tests, they have to measure it, after 20 minutes in nature. And they perform better after 20 minutes in an open field rather than being in trees. Isn't that interesting? So kids running around playing soccer is pretty much ideal for them getting exercise and being out in nature. Taking them on hikes is really good. There are great places in Toronto. Rouge on the east side. You can go up Kingston Road, park in the lot at just past Port Union, I think, and you can walk by the river, and you can walk up on the ridge in the trees. It's north of the zoo there somewhere. Well, that's where it is. There's High Park. There's Forks of the Credit just out of town to the northwest. There's Glen Major Forest to the northeast, 45 minutes out of town. So if you can, get them into nature. And one thing I'd like to do is organize some hikes, just because it's challenging to organize, where you just have to show up and bring your kids and we all go for a hike. I'm planning to do that, so stay tuned. So these are things that you probably need to take charge of yourself. School will do some of it, but maybe not enough. Something else that is important as an essential is to manage your emotional stresses, and you can learn how to do that, and your kids can learn how to do that too. It's very easy with energy techniques, and there are some that are kinesthetic. One of them is emotional freedom technique. I can show people how to do this. It's fast and easy. I do this in workshops. And another is playing with spaces. I don't know what else to call it. And this is, I would say, almost magically transformative. And I worked with a kid for 10 minutes at the beginning of the class who was highly anxious, and he did this stuff, did his spinning with spaces and playing with spaces, and off he went, happy, bouncy, for the next 2 weeks. I was blown away. So because it's kinesthetic and it's using their body, it's easy for them to stay tuned. It's a lot easier than mindfulness for kids, and it's more powerful. So that's important, that we can learn how to handle our own emotions. We can empower kids with tuition and ourselves. And we all have intuitive abilities built in. If we have a body, we have intuitive abilities. Some people access it with more ease, I should say. Sorry, my brain just went off. But we can all learn how to access our intuition. And this is another one of the workshops that I teach, and I love to show people how to do this, kids and parents alike. Just simple tools to start accessing their intuitive abilities and communicating with their bodies and using their bodies to communicate with other things, and using your own knowing. And you can make decisions with ease. It's very easy. It's great for kids When they can access their intuition, they can head off bullying at the pass, but it opens up a lot more things for them too, empowers them in ways that make it so that they aren't such a target for bullying to start with, which is really the foundation of it, isn't it? Helps them socially, and it helps their schoolwork too. They can use their intuition and their intuitive abilities to know what to study, to know what their teacher knows that they need to know, and all sorts of things. It's not hard. These kids have the abilities. It's easier for them to access them often than it is for adults. So this is something that I think is really important, and it's going to be more and more important in our world. We're moving into a world where we are going to be required to use our intuitive abilities. So let's start now. And this is the last thing for parents to do, and that is to nurture your kids' unique gifts and interests and abilities. I asked a mother one time, I was having a phone conversation from school with the mother of one of my students who is on the spectrum, ASD spectrum, and I said, so your child is really amazingly good at geography, and you say that he does all this stuff, and he also loves to cook. What are you doing to encourage those interests outside of school? And she said to me, can I? And I didn't know what to say. It was a shock to me that somehow in her interactions with the school system, she thought that she wasn't allowed to, or it wasn't helpful, or it wasn't the right thing to do to encourage what her child loved to do. And that has been a turning point for me in working with kids with exceptionalities or with learning challenges. Please. And as a teacher, I know how that happens, because we look at their IEP and we see strengths and we see needs. And we have very limited time with them, not nearly enough time. I had 15 students, all with very real and very diverse needs, individual needs, and I needed one-on-one time with each of them, and I had 15 in one class. This is in an all special education school. So in a mainstream school, you'll have maybe 30 kids with 2 or 5 kids who have an IEP. There's no way they're going to get enough attention on what they really require, just because of the funding of the system and how it works. So we tend to focus in school on what needs to be remediated because that's what we're told to do. I have English literacy. This was a class I had. They were reading at a grade 3 or 4 level. They were age 14 to 21, and our mandate is to get them 2 grade levels up, or 1 at least, by the end of the semester. Okay, that in itself is kind of a mammoth task. And so focusing on their strengths and really reinforcing them in the face of all that we were supposedly trying to remediate, it doesn't happen a lot of times. So you need to take and give yourself full permission to do all of that. Even if you don't have time to do all the shoulds, please do that. If they're good at something, give them lots of it. Lots of it. And I'm not talking more screen time necessarily. It's more healthy, as you know already. More healthy if they're going to be doing things that are creative, projects, learning something that they're interested in, like real learning, not just playing games on screens, please. That might be what they love to do, but it's not going to help them develop. You know the difference. And find out what's available in the community. Maybe there are classes, you know, what's the fun online, the recreation community. There's lots of classes there that you might find useful. And there are programs if you ask around and find resources. One thing I'd like to do, and actually it's already being done by various societies for autism and ADHD, is provide lists of resources for these kinds of things. We want them to be successful, we want them to be confident, and we want them to know that they have something valuable within themselves, because so much focus is on their weakness and on what they can't do that these poor kids often feel like they really can't do anything well, and they get super discouraged. No more of this, right? They all are beautiful, and they all have something they love to do, and let's let them do it, develop it. So the things that I do, I've talked about something. I do this intuitive body-brain health analysis where we find all sorts of things, but can find sensitivities and allergies to food, etc. So that's really useful to you. And I do referrals to holistic practitioners if it's required and if that's what you want. I offer ionic detox sessions so that you can get these things out of the body. And I do neurobalancing bodywork and personal sessions. And I also do offer the wearable technology, neurotechnology, to help balance the brain. And that I gave you the website for already, but you can talk to me personally. You don't have to order it online. Get it from me or there. And I offer workshops for parents and kids. And these are some of them. So for parents, the kind of workshops I offer, and these will be starting in, I would say probably August. So between August and December. So making life easier with school, and there will be these and some other workshops where I team up with a special education teacher that can give you the lowdown and the skinny on how to navigate the system and get the best out of it. So stay tuned for that. How to understand what's going on in the brain. So some explanation of how the neurochemicals work, some of the systems involved, particularly for ADHD, but also for the other for autism spectrum and OCD and dyslexia. And getting a different perspective. Okay, what are the gifts of these labels? Because there are gifts. And how can we approach kids with these so-called labels or exceptionalities in different ways to help them maximize their gifts? And then another workshop for parents to clear their emotional overload, just to learn how to nurture themselves emotionally, and to get some practical tools to avoid frustration and fights at home. You don't want your kids in on this workshop because there will be some tools that you use to help them. And for parents and kids together, because I think it's really, really important that parents and kids are doing this together, not just sending our kids to get fixed. That's not what this is about. It's about parents and kids opening up to who they really are and being able to develop. Why am I so interested in parents and kids? Because most of these conditions are inherited from at least one parent. So that might be you. If you're listening to this, it probably is. So when you are willing to develop in the same ways you're asking your child to develop, you're modeling for them what they can do and what they can be. And that's why I think it's super important. And then they have resources, a resource person at home, which is you, who can help them with the things that they're learning. That's why it is essential, I think. So one workshop is to learn energy techniques to manage your own emotions, like I talked about earlier. One is learning neurobalancing body work that you can do on your child and your child can do on you. And another workshop is learning some easy tools to develop your intuition, to get started with that. And another workshop is beyond verbal communication. Why is this important? This might seem woo-woo to you, it might seem out there, but actually, people who are on the ASD spectrum tend to communicate telepathically with pictures, like wolves. So you can communicate with your child in movies, mental movies that you just send to them. And it's not, you can start now practicing, just do it. You're already doing that. I've heard parents say to me, they've said to me in person, parents of kids on the spectrum, we have no difficulty communicating at home and everything is fine. It's just at school that there's problems. And I'm like, because you don't realize that you're already communicating telepathically with your child at home. That's why it's ease there and not ease at school. So we need to step up and learn how to communicate with kids in a way that they communicate. Kids with ADHD know what you're thinking, they know what you're feeling. They're very intuitive. So what if we could consciously learn to match that and work with that? So those are some of the workshops that I will be offering in the fall, starting in August, hopefully. So I'm just going to show you some of the packages that I've put together. So you can kind of put this in your brain. This is also on a web page that you can look at and digest later if you like. So the first one, at first I didn't know how to figure this out. And it's like, well, finally, it's like, well, what would you really, really love to give people? What would you, in the ideal world, want them to have? Oh, well, that's easy, I know. So here's what I'd love for you to have and what I'd love to do with you. And that's start with an intuitive body-brain health analysis. These are actually in all the packages that I offer because I think it's really super important to know what's going on and to deal with things that can be dealt with holistically and physically in different ways. And then for this one, we monitor it every month for the 6-month period to see what kind of progress is made, what's going on, and how things are changing. And also with that come food suggestions, as I said before, and holistic practitioner referrals. And this includes 8 neurobalancing and or coaching sessions for each person, for the child and for the parent. So this is your chance to be nurtured and your chance to develop so that you can keep up to your own kids. And 8 ionic detox sessions for each person. And 4 parent workshops, the ones I talked about, and 4 parent-child workshops. And also 10 Parents Power Hour online conference calls. A different topic every time with some tips and help, but really to connect parents in a conference call, sharing their tips and their ideas on certain topics. And a lot of parents feel like they don't have enough support from other parents, and this is one thing that we can do. And then 2 pairs of wearable neural technology for each person, for the parent and for the child. And then some people don't really want to participate in the groups. They're not so much interested in that. So one other thing that I offer is just individual care. So it's basically the same things, the health analysis, food suggestions, 6 neurobalancing coaching sessions for each person, but these are going to be more in depth. And some of the things that I teach in workshops, I can teach you one-on-one. So they'll include those kind of things, tools and techniques, so that you get what you need. You might not get the neurobalancing each other one, but in this kind of a setting, but you get additional tools as well. And 6 ionic detox sessions for each person, parent and child, and the same socks. And then some people just want the group events. They don't, plus they want to find out what it's like, what the neurobalancing stuff is like, how it feels, if it helps before they jump in too much. And so this is a chance to do that. So all the group stuff, but to have only 3 neurobalancing and coaching sessions for each person and 3 ionic detox sessions for each person as a taster. And some only want the group events. So this is just the health analysis at the beginning and the end, and the workshops, and the power hour calls, and the technology. And sometimes people want to let us see what this is. So an individual taster for parent and child. So this is the intuitive body-brain health analysis at the beginning, and then after the 3rd session, and all that goes with that, all the suggestions and possibilities and referrals. 3 neurobalancing and or coaching sessions for each person, and 1 pair of socks for each person. You got to try them, and I'll show you how you can get the most out of them just with 1 pair. This is for adults that want to try the transformation sessions for themselves and see what difference it makes. So this is 2 sessions, but they'll be hefty ones, full on. And the health analysis at the beginning and the end, and wearable neural technology. And this I can do online with you and do it from anywhere. In person is preferred for the neurobalancing, for the body work, but the coaching we can do online, and it's very powerful. The Parents Power Hour, sometimes parents just want the support of other parents. I am including the intuitive body-brain health analysis for you and your child because I want you to have a look at, have access to what is going on there so that you can make some choices based on that. So food choices and other things that you might want to check out based on that. And then the Power Hour calls online, and I really, really want people to try this wearable neurotechnology because it does make a difference. So the special for today, if you're watching this, it's today. It's today for you. And this is to have intuitive body-brain health analysis for you and your child for the price of one. So $100 for both of you instead of $100 each. And you can subtract this from any package. All the packages, I believe, have that in it. So you can subtract $100 from any package later. So it's a no loss. It's not going to be repeated in terms of that. So that would be your initial analysis for any package if you choose that in the future. And this can be online, done online from anywhere. So this is really, really cool, useful information for you and for me, but useful for you to find out what's going on. And I would really, really encourage you to do this because it can inform a lot of the things that you can take charge of and you can change for your own child. So here's the prices of all the things. Let's get the cursor over here. This is what the value is according to what I normally charge when these things are done in isolation. And this is the package price. So $37.50 for the total care for parent and child. And I do have payment plans for the packages. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one. 2 payments for that one. So $37.50 for total care, $31.50 for parent and child individual care. You're getting exactly what you need one-on-one. And then $1,900 if you just want to taste what the neurobalancing is and you want the group stuff. $890 if you want the group stuff. And there's additional charges for extra children that are less. And a parent-child individual tasters, $825, and individual transformation taster is $500. And we can do 2 payments of $300 and $200 if this is what you'd like to try. And then the parents' power hour is $350. And then the health analysis, as I said before, is 2 for 1, and that's $100 that you can put towards any other package. This is online, and that slide is way back there somewhere because I added it at the last minute. That is Linda Lonseth, lindalonseth.ca/on-the-spectrum, SPECTRUM. I will add a link to that from the main pages so that you can find that with ease. So that's LINDALONSETH.ca/on-the-spectrum with dashes in between. I'm just going to close your eyes for a second. I'm going to flash back to that slide, okay? That was a mistake, actually, because I want to show you the last slide. These don't work very fast. Okay. Okay, there you see it. LindaLonseth.ca/on-the-spectrum. I'm going to look at you for a minute while I forward these to the last slide. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for sitting through all of this. And what this is going to look like, we're going to talk about in a minute, but why I've put this together is these are the things that I feel are the most powerful and required to get right to the root of things. And you need to look after the physical and the emotional, the neurological. What else are we talking about? Physical, emotional, neurological. And really when you are looking after the intuition, you're kind of getting into the spiritual. You're looking after everything. All right. So what this looks like in the okay, I mess up again. What this looks like, I just have to tell you. Because that slide is out of reach now. What this looks like is when you would come for the first time, we would do the intuitive body-brain analysis, and you would get your pair of socks, and, well, actually not in that order. We do a detox, ionic foot bath session of detox. You'd get your clean socks, and we do neurobalancing. So the first session is kind of a longer session, and unfortunately this time I don't have childcare available for parent sessions. I'm sorry about that. So parents, I would ask you to come on your own, because when I am working with you with neurobalancing, body work, or coaching, you don't want to be distracted and wondering what your child is doing or if they're entertained. At some point in the future, I'll be able to offer that, hopefully, but it'll be in a different location, and that will be probably an added that price because it will be somebody else doing that. There are, as I said, there are payment options available for all those packages, and you can see that on the page. And I would encourage you, please, to reach out to talk to me about any of this. Okay, if you have a question about what's going on with your kid, if you want to talk about dyslexia, if you want to talk more about ADHD or about communication, any of things, please reach out to me, lindalonseth.ca, and my email is linda@lindalonseth.ca. So send me a quick email, leave your phone number if you'd like me to call you. And you can also do that on the website, is just leave your email and your phone number, and I'll contact you and we can have a chat about anything that you want to. And if you have questions about any of the packages, you're interested in them, or you want a payment plan, all of those things, just shoot me a quick email and we can sort that out. So thank you for joining me today, and please love your kids, enjoy them, get outside, enjoy nature, get them running around an empty field, and enjoy yourself. And please be easy on yourself. You're amazing, and you are, I think you're some of the superheroes of the universe. You really are. And only you knows exactly how much you deal with on a daily basis. And I have every admiration for you. So let's keep in touch. And I look forward to someday, hopefully, meeting you in person, if not in person, online. So we can have a Zoom conversation anytime. We can have a telephone conversation. And in person is always great too. I'd love to have coffee with you. So please, let's open it up and create a different possibility for these kids, this whole generation, and for you. Because very possibly some of these things are what you have going on too. Thank you. And that's all for today. And thank you so much. And we will talk again. Bye for now.